Okay, you're all welcome to the class. And today we'll be taking IELTS writing task 2, and I'm going to start all from the scratch. Please pay attention. Like I've always said, have your pen and paper close by. Then also follow the screen. The materials I will send to you so that you also have access to them. If you can print this material on the screen, if you can print it, it will really help you. It's a material I drafted as a template for IELTS writing task 2, and it has really been helpful. For many of us, you already know some of the content that I give out. Some of them, most of them, if not all, are practical content. They are content that will lead you to taking, will help you. All you need to do is follow the instructions and follow everything that I've said, whether they are audios or videos or PDFs. So I'll drop this on the group also, so that every other person can have access to it, especially for those people who are probably using their computers or their phones, or those people who may want to download it. Yes, you would have access to the material. Now, the material actually is a template, provides a template for writing. So it is a guide for writing task 2, and believe me, it is very helpful, right? So just all you need to do is follow everything that I've said and the explanation that I will give. Follow them page by page. Okay, so in the IELTS writing test, you have 2 tasks. Whether you are taking academic or general, there are 2 tasks. Now, so you have task 1 and task 2. Now, for the academic training, the task 1, like we had said before, in the task 1, you will be expected to report and or describe a diagram. And the diagram could be a chart, a map, a process diagram, a graph, a table, or yes, a table. It could be a line graph or what have you, right? So you're going to do that. While for those taking, for the general training test takers, you would have a letter, and the letter could either be a formal letter, an informal letter, or a semi-formal letter, as the case may be. Now, however, in the task 2, it's the same. For task 2, whether general or academic, the questions will require you to either argue or discuss. So it's usually an essay, and you will either argue or discuss a particular topic. Now, we'll just quickly look at, now, like I said, have your notes and your pen. Some of what I will say will not be on the screen, and so it's important that you take them down. Now, let's quickly look at what you're expected to do. So for the total writing, for writing generally, you'll be spending 60 minutes, and you are advised to spend 20 minutes for task 1 and 40 minutes for task 2. Now, for task 1, you should write not less than 150 words. That means your responses should not be less than 150 words. While for task 2, you should write not less than 250 words. So you can see, so it's the word count is very important, very, very important. So you don't want to miss that. And you are advised to spend 40 minutes in task 2 and 20 minutes in task 1. And this is very important because you do not want to spend all the time writing task 1 when the bulk of the writing score will come from, your total writing score will come from the task 2. Very important. Now, because we are not talking about task 1 today, we'll just go straight to the task 2. Now, but for the task 2, let's look at the marking criteria. And I need you to listen because, like I said, not everything will be displayed. So listen, take notes if possible. Now, this marking criteria also applies to task 1. So the marking criteria tells you what the examiners will be looking out for. So what would they be looking out for in the tests? As far as the test is concerned, they will be looking out for what we call task response or task achievement. So task response or task achievement measures how well you have responded to the task, how you have answered the question. If you have used if your answers are in line with the given topic, that's task achievement. From the introduction of your task 2, in fact, the examiner will know whether you are meeting the task achievement or not. Right? They will know whether you're meeting the task achievement or not. So very important. Now, the next thing after task achievement that they will look at will be coherence and cohesion. So coherence and cohesion assesses the flow of your writing, the connection of ideas, how you have been able to connect the ideas in your work, right? So it looks at how you have connected the ideas in your work, the logical arrangement. What is the logic of your work? That's coherence. The connectives, the linkers. How have you used them? How have you used words like therefore, hence, thus, however, nevertheless? How have you used those words? So these things make up what they may look at as coherence and cohesion in your work. Very important, right? And then next, after coherence and cohesion, they will assess your lexical resources. Lexical resources, very important. Lexical resources looks at the words, the vocabulary, yeah, the vocabulary. And the vocabulary also has to do with the synonyms, how rich your word bank is, the synonyms, how you have used, you don't repeat words unnecessarily. Then under the vocabulary also, there is what we call topic-related words, topic-related vocabularies. So what that means is that there are certain words that are appropriate for some topics, right? And a very good example, an example I've always given, especially in line with topic-related vocabularies, and I've said, for instance, look at this terminology, look at these words. Students, customer, client, and patient. Look at these 4 words. Students, customer, clients, and patient. Now, you see, by purpose and by rules, these 4, or by class, these 4 terms belong to the same class. In fact, they refer to the same person. The difference between them is actually the topic or the area that they belong to. So when somebody is sick on admission and is in the hospital, the doctor does not call that person a customer, even though that person actually have come to patronize the services of the doctor. But he calls the person a patient because that is the vocabulary for that field. That is the reference to that person for that field. Now, in the market, this same person who is a patient to a doctor, in the market, when this person goes to a market to buy something, the seller calls the person a customer because that is the vocabulary for any person who comes to buy something from a seller. Now, if that person leaves, I said 4, a student, yeah, the person goes to a school and enrolls in a school or in a class. That person becomes a student. Now you see how this one person doing the same thing, the same role, but the terminology changes as soon as it changes environment. That's that's what the so if for instance you are writing a topic on education, for instance, you won't call learners, you won't call them customers, you won't call them patients, or you won't call them clients. You rather call them students, right? So topic related words, another good example will be where you are writing a topic on education. Now, it's expected that the kind of vocabularies that will be in your writing will be words like learners, students, teachers, right? Learning, words like teaching, right? Course, subjects. These words are words that are related to education. While if you're writing a topic on computer or the digital age, you would have words like computer, social media, the internet, website, browse. Now, these words represent that they will tell the examiner that they align with the topic of maybe a computer or the digital age. Very important. So lexical resources. Remember what we said? We said they would look at your task response or task achievement, how well you have achieved the task. They will look at the coherence and cohesion, the connection, the logical arrangement of ideas in your writing. Then they will look at lexical resources, which measures the words that you have used, how rich your word is. Very important. The words you have used, the vocabularies you have used, right? Next, they would look at grammatical range and accuracy. That means they would measure the grammar of your writing, right? Your sentence structure, your tenses, spellings, punctuations, and all that. Those things will be assessed on the grammatical range. So that means that there should be a variety of grammatical structures and accuracy. And what that means also has to do with the accuracy of your grammar. Yeah, you should know when to write in past tense, you should know when to write in present tense, and you should know when to write in future tense. They're very important. So these four makes up the criteria for assessment. So if you're wondering how you will be assessed, these four that I have listed makes up the criteria for assessment. All right, so let's quickly look at the tax 2 itself. I told you that for the tax 2, you will either argue or discuss, and we'll leave it at this level. So pay attention, please. You will either argue or discuss, right? And with that, then I have categorized the writing tax 2 into 3 different categories, groups. I've grouped the different question types into 3. And first, I have questions that are argumentative questions, right? And so you can write it down. You have argumentative questions. Then you have discursive questions. Right? Then you have 2-part questions. 2-part questions. I'll take it again. Argumentative, discursive, then 2-part question. Now, let's quickly explain these different types of writing questions. Now, simply, the argumentative question is that question type that requires you to choose a side, to argue for a side or against a side. So usually you are given the freedom to pick a side and argue on that side. So questions that, for instance, asks if you agree or disagree are argumentative. So when you see the prompt, and we are going to we're going to look at practical questions. We are going to see it on the screen. But for now, just listen. So questions where the prompts or the instruction asks if you agree or disagree are argumentative. Sometimes they could tell you, to what extent do you agree or disagree? When you see such kind of question, then it is argumentative. When the question also asks you if you when the question asks you if you if the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, if the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, when the question asks you that, then it is also argumentative. Because this time around you're looking at, they could ask you, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? So that means you're going to pick a side. You're picking a side. Now, if the question asks you, does it have a positive or negative development? Now, they want you to pick a side. It's either you're picking that it has a positive development or it has a negative development. Right. So take note, any question that requires you to pick a side, to choose a side, is what? Argumentative. We're going to see the structure. We're going to see the structure, and we're going to see how you are to respond to such kind of questions. But just take note, understand this at this level. All right. Now, how about discursive questions? How about discursive questions? Just like the term is discursive. So these questions just allow you to discuss. So you're just to discuss. You're not picking a side. You're not choosing a side. Your argument don't tilt to a side. You discuss, right? You discuss. I see somebody interrupting. Somebody's adding people. Please, maybe later. Not now. It's distracting the class, please. Thank you. Thank you, please. All right. So please don't add any other person until yes, maybe after the class, not now. I have something popping up on my screen and it's really not comfortable. All right, thank you very much. All right. So discursive. So for discursive questions, all you need to know is that, of course, the question requires you to discuss. So if you have to discuss, then you are not picking a side. It gives you a platform. It asks for your opinion. So some other people will call it opinion essays or opinionated essays, right? So you just discuss. You're not choosing a side. Questions like, discuss both views and state your opinion. Discuss both views and state your opinion. Questions like, what are the advantages and disadvantages? Such kind of questions. What are the advantages and disadvantages of something? Questions like, what are the causes and effects? Causes and effects. Problems and solution. Sometimes they will say, what do you think? What is your opinion? Sometimes such questions could come. What is your opinion? Right. Sometimes you could have all kind of question again, but generally discussive questions that allows you to discuss. Now, when you have such kind of question, then it is discussive. We will take our time to also look at the structure, right? We'll take our time to look at the structure. All right. So the third kind of question is what we call two-part question. And I'm going to show you all of these questions. I'm going to show you varieties of these questions and how they are and the structure for which you would use to respond to them, I will show it to you. I have, like I said earlier, I have a template of each of these types of IELTS writing tasks too, and there is a structure to it. All you need to do is follow the structure. So two-part questions. So for two-part questions, you have a question and you have a prompt, and then you have two questions, and you are expected to answer both questions. Very important. Two questions connected to that prompt, and you're expected to answer both questions, right? Of course, it's just it in its category. Sometimes one of the question will be argumentative, the other discussive. Sometimes you will have two argumentative questions, sometimes two discussive questions, right? So that's the structure of two-part question. Now remember, for argumentative question, you are expected to pick a side or tilt to a side, while for discussive questions, you're expected to discuss, right? Argumentative question, you choose a side. Do you agree or disagree? This essay agrees. You pick agree, and then you write and give reasons why you agree. While discussive questions, all you need to do is to discuss. All right. So before we look at our paper, do you have any question? Yes, at this stage.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Yeah, I said like can I ask question now?
Yes.
Okay, like the argumentative essay. So it's
Yes.
allowed for you to just argue the other side and then leave the other side, because in some cases you
Yes.
will see that you have to talk about both sides.
Yes.
Like some other
All right.
observation I made, you have to argue both sides and then talk more on the one you supported.
Yes, exactly. Now for the argumentative essay, like I said, you just have to pick a side. Yeah, you have to pick a side. Yeah, there are some cases where okay, you have to talk more, and then
Okay.
you counter the other side, right? But the summary of your writing will be that there is a side you have chosen. So if you say, for
Mm.
instance, you agree, you need to give us reasons why you agree. Is that okay? You can't be writing, you can't agree and disagree in one essay. Do you understand? You can't
Yeah.
agree and disagree in one essay. Now, but if the question, for instance, is on, if the question asks you something like, do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? And you agree that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. So you are writing on the advantages. Even when you have to mention the disadvantages, you are mentioning it from the on the backdrop that it actually is invalid. Now, if you're coming from that angle, you are actually you're talking more and dwelling more on the advantages.
Okay.
Is that okay? Have your
Yes.
question been answered?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Any other person? Okay. So then we'll just continue. Right? We'll just continue. All right. So let us quickly head to our screen for let's quickly head to our screen for the analysis of each question type that we have talked about, looking at the structure, how okay, now the question will be, how do we now attempt questions? All right, we understand this, we understand that there is argumentative, we understand there is discussive, right? And these essays. So how do we now write? Now I prefer a simple structure for each of them. Sincerely, all you need to do is follow the structure, and you end up coming up with essays at every time. Every time you end up coming up with essays. All right. Now, before we look at the structure and what have you, so on my screen here, I have our content, our lesson material. But before we look at the structure, I want to quickly give you a very important tip. And that is what you need to do, before you start to write. Now, before writing, there should be something called an outline. You should brainstorm. You should try to understand the topic that is asked of you. Is that okay? You should try to understand the topics. And for the task 2, you are going to you would have to generate your idea. It's unlike the task 1 where everything you write about is already before you. But for task 2, you would generate your idea. So for some people have the problem of, okay, how do I generate idea? How do I come up with an idea? I understand that this is an argumentative essay. I understand that this is a discursive essay, but how do I come up with an idea? And there are two tips that I give for this, basically. Now, the first is I say you need to understand the keywords of the prompt. Let me show you one practically. Let's pick up one of the prompts here, and here. I hope you can all see my screen. You can all see my screen. Yeah. Hello, you can all see my screen.
Yes, it's very clear.
Oh, very good. Thank you very much. All right. So now, all right. Okay. Now let's look at this topic. It's a topic. Let's look at it. In some countries, an increasing number of people are suffering from health problems as a result of eating too much fast food. It is therefore necessary for government to impose a higher tax on this kind of food, right? On this kind of food. Now, how do I generate my point? I need to understand what the prompt is saying. Now, the instruction asks, yeah, it says, do you agree or disagree? Right? So first, I need to look at what is the prompt talking about? And I take my pen, I look at health problems. So yeah, health problems as a result of eating too much fast food. As a result of fast food, health problems. And it is therefore, so consequent on this, right? Here is the argument. Should government impose higher tax on this kind of, remember, this kind of food is fast food, right? This kind of food. So this here is the argument. So because you could, in your head, you could rephrase it. Because people are suffering from different sicknesses as a result of eating fast food, then government should impose a higher tax on this kind of food. Now, it will now give you a clearer picture. Is that okay? It will give you a clearer picture. Another way I said you could generate ideas is to personalize it. So the question now is, for instance, what will happen if government imposes higher rates or higher tax on maybe Indomie? On Indomie, of course, Indomie is a fast food. So what will happen? That means Indomie becomes expensive. And then many people will no longer be able to afford it. And if that happens, if there is any health implication from taking Indomie, then it will drop. Now you see how I'm able to understand the question now, and I'm relating. Okay, then it will drop. Interesting. Yeah. So that's that I agree. So since I agree, and I got this is okay, then okay, what other point do I have? I said okay. In some countries, for instance, um, there has been, I think in the US or thereabout, or the UK, um, there are certain things like alcohol and what have you, have been higher tax have been imposed on them, and there has been massive reduction on the intake of such kind of products. You see, so if that is applied to junk food also, it will reduce the consumption. So if it can be applied to alcohol, why can't it be applied to fast food? That's that I agree. So you see, these 2 points are the points that show that I agree. If I disagree, I could have my points like, if there is high tax on fast food, a lot of people who depend on this food to survive will starve, and so there will be hunger, because fast foods are generally known to be cheaper. Yes, um, snacks and some of these kinds they are cheap food, and some of this food, a lot of poor people depend on this food to survive, since the normal kind of food is quite expensive in the market. So fast food come handy, and so it becomes a problem for people who can afford regular meals. We can as well look at fast food and say, oh, fast food actually have helped even some other people who work, people who don't have time to cook. Junk food have helped them, have made them become more productive. Now, if they are no longer able to afford this food, then it could also affect them. So you see, that's your argument. That's if you disagree, right? So you could generate your own point, relate it to yourself. What will happen to you? How will it impact you? Now, the more these topics you bring it home, the more points you're going to have. Is that okay? So with this now, you could get more points. Now, I've always said that you shouldn't argue, because you shouldn't write on the number of points. It's not just about the number, it's about the quality. So if you have 2 points and you are able to discuss these 2 points well, good. Of course, I should tell you that I prefer a 4-paragraph essay. So you should have introduction, then you should have body paragraph 1, and then you have body paragraph 2, then you have the conclusion. And if that is the case, then for questions like this, it should just be what? 2 points, which will be clearly discussed in body paragraph 1 and body paragraph 2. Okay, let's quickly look at this question type: agree or disagree. So we are going to spend the weekend. We're going to spend the weekend looking at each of the question types, doing a critical analysis of this content material, and see how we can apply this structure to our writing. And of course, like our manner is, I would also give assignments. And when I give you assignments, it's important that you turn in those assignments. All right? Okay. Let's look at agree or disagree questions. Of course, we have said you're going to have, now this is a structure to agree or disagree. You have your introduction. You have the body, main body 1, main body 2, and the conclusion. Right? Now, let's consider the introduction. The introduction for this, because this is an argumentative essay, this is the structure you should take for the introduction. The first thing you need to do is to paraphrase the questions, right? Paraphrase the question. Then, after you paraphrase the question, of course, when we talk about paraphrasing the question, we mean that you rephrase the question, you use synonyms, you use words, and you don't repeat words that is already in the question or expressions. You don't repeat it. You use synonyms. You change the question without changing the meaning in the question, right? So you paraphrase the question. Thereafter, within the same paragraph, you have your thesis statement. The thesis statement is that statement that tells the reader where you belong. The thesis statement is that statement that tells the reader where you belong. It tells the reader whether you agree or you disagree, right? Whether you agree or you disagree. Then you have the outline sentence. The outline sentence. Now, the outline sentence is the sentence that carries 2 points, that you will discuss. 2 points that will be discussed in your essay will be in the outline sentence. Now, before we go to the body, let me show you an example. Now, let's consider this question here and look at what is done in the introduction. Now, as previously stated, we'll be using the following structure. So this is like a 3-sentence structure. First, we paraphrase the prompts. Then we write the thesis statement. Then we have the outline sentence or the outline statement. Right? Okay. Here is the question for yes. In some countries, an increasing number of people are suffering from health problems as a result of eating too much fast food. It is therefore necessary for governments to impose a higher tax on this kind of food. All right, now look at the paraphrase here. Yeah, I hope it is clear. Yeah, I hope you can all see my screen.
Yeah.
All right, now look at the paraphrase. Now, it is argued that governments should levy a tariff on junk food because the number of health risks associated with consuming this kind of food is on the rise. So you can see what have been done here. Here we have used tariff. We have used tariff instead in place of tax. Right? We have used junk food in place of fast food. Okay? We have used health risks in place of health problems. So, you see, that's a good way to paraphrase. Now, when they look at this, they will give you a good score for your vocabularies using synonyms, right? So you can see that we have used synonyms, you have changed the structure of the sentence, I will be able to create another sentence that is not actually without repeating or carrying exactly what they have said to our paper. So we have paraphrased the prompts. Now, what is the next thing to do? Let's look at our formula. The next thing is to have your thesis statement. Your thesis statement. And here we have it. This essay agrees that a higher rate of tax should be paid by fast food companies. So you can adopt this as a structure for your writing. You can adopt this as a structure for your writing. This essay agrees that a higher rate of tax should be paid by fast food companies. All right. Now let's quickly look at the next thing, which is the outline, and see how it was constructed. Firstly, alcohol and tobacco companies already pay higher taxes. And secondly, higher taxes could raise prices and lower consumption. Now you see how I have drawn it. I have given my 2 points in the outline. Firstly, so this is my first argument. Alcohol and tobacco already pay higher taxes, which I will discuss in the first body paragraph. And secondly, higher taxes could raise prices and lower consumption, which will be discussed in the second body paragraph. Right? So with this, I have my introduction. Now let's look at it. Well, here is the introduction. I'm going to change the color of the highlight in ink so that we're able to differentiate it. Okay. So this is the introduction in green. It is argued that government should. Now take note of what I did here. I said it is argued to tell them that this is an argumentative essay. It is argued that government should levy a tariff on junk food because the number of health risks associated with consuming this kind of food is on the rise. This essay agrees that a higher rate of tax should be paid by fast food companies. Firstly, alcohol and tobacco companies already pay higher taxes. And secondly, higher taxes could raise prices and lower consumption. Now, how am I able to get this? All I did is to follow this formula. First, I paraphrase the question. Then I present my thesis statement. Then I present my outline sentence. Any question before we continue? Any question? All right. None. Now, something is okay. Yes.
Yes, sir. Please, I want to ask: is that first and second? What's the firstly and secondly? What you wrote under first and second, is it going to be part of the introduction, or is it going to be another paragraph entirely?
It is part of the introduction. I only stated it. Look at it here. I only stated it because that is my outline. Now, the introduction, are you following me? Can you put off your mic? Yes. The introduction should tell the reader what your essay is going to be about. So I just stated it. I just highlighted it. And that's why it's called the outline. That place is called the outline. So firstly, alcohol and tobacco company already pay higher taxes. Secondly, higher taxes could raise prices and lower consumption. So what that means is that in my first paragraph, first body paragraph, I will discuss that since alcohol and tobacco companies already pay higher taxes, then why can't fast food companies pay higher taxes? Then in my second paragraph, that second body paragraph, I will then discuss that higher taxes could raise prices and lower consumption of junk food, thereby reducing the health risks associated with it. So I am not discussing it. I have not discussed it.
Excuse, sir.
I only stated it. Yes.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you
Hello, can you hear me?
clearly. Very clear.
Okay. I said, what is the difference between the outline statement and thesis? It's a bit confusing.
Okay, let's see. The thesis now, as you can see, and thank God it's on the screen. You can see it clearly, right? The thesis statement states the position you have taken in an argumentative essay. Right? Now, I'll just quickly underline the thesis statement for you. Here, you have it. This essay agrees that a higher rate of tax should be paid by fast food companies. Are you following me, ma? Are you following me, ma?
Yes.
So the thesis tells us, okay, I agree. The essay agrees. The outline sentence gives reasons why the essay agrees. That's the difference. So it's important that after you have paraphrased, then you state whether you agree or disagree. Then you now give us reasons why you either agree or disagree. And that's what I've done here. So I have stated that this essay agrees. Then I now give reasons why the essay agrees. Alcohol and tobacco company already pay higher taxes, and higher taxes could raise prices and lower consumption. Is that okay?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so now I ought to state that this formula here applies to argumentative essays. And today we'll just dwell on introduction today. And we'll look at the introduction for argumentative questions so that we don't rush it. We'll just dwell on introduction. This structure that you see, paraphrase question, thesis statement, outline sentence, it is structure for argumentative. So let me quickly take you to another argumentative question. So, and you see how we have been able to apply this structure for the argumentative question, right? I'm coming, right? Okay, so now let's quickly look at this.
I don't have charts.
Yes, this is on page for those with the material on page 7. If you look at page 7, on page 7,
Are you
you
using Cambridge 16 or 13?
No, I am not. This is a material. I'm not using any Cambridge. I created this material. I created the material, and it's not Cambridge. It is a material, but the questions are actually Cambridge questions. The questions are real IELTS test questions, but this material I created it, and it is on the platform. You could have it on our WhatsApp group. You would see the material, right? So you have access to it. All right. So look at this question type. The question type here is for, I told you different argumentative questions. When they ask you, for instance, Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? And I told you it follows the same structure. The introduction follows the same structure as agree or disagree. So here, you, like our manner is, you paraphrase the question, then you state your thesis. Now, your thesis should state which one outweighs the other. That's your thesis statement. That means which one you align with. Then you have your outline sentence, which gives the reasons why you think one outweighs the other. So let's quickly go straight to the question, and then to the particular question. And please follow the screen. Very important. Okay, here we have a sample question. Right? We have a sample question. Look at it here. Let me highlight it. Let me highlight it. Some experts believe that it is better for children to begin learning a foreign language at primary school rather than secondary school. Do the advantages outweigh the disadvantages? So whenever you see this type of question, know that it is an argumentative essay. They want you to go with you are either stating that the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, or that the disadvantages outweigh the advantages. Right? So let us quickly look at the formula. So they said first we paraphrase the question, then we state our thesis, which is the thesis statement, and then we have our outline sentence. Now, looking at the introduction, some authorities think that now this on green here is our paraphrase. Some authorities think that it is more favorable for pupils to begin studying languages at primary school instead of secondary school. That is the paraphrase. Right? That is the paraphrase. Now look, now we will now go to the thesis statement. And the thesis statement is on blue. This essay will argue that the advantages of this outweigh the drawbacks. That is the what? Thesis statement. That is the thesis statement. Now let's quickly look at the outline sentence. Like I said the outline sentence is that sentence that tells us, that gives us the points that you will discuss. Now this essay will first demonstrate that the earlier someone learns an additional language, the more likely they are to master it. So that's what it's going to do first. So let's look at the first point. The earlier someone learns an additional language, the more likely they are to master it. And it brings cognitive benefits. So in his first paragraph, he will talk about how that studying a foreign language in primary school, how that the earlier one starts, the more likely they are to master it, and that learning such languages or learning a language as early as primary school brings added cognitive benefits. It says followed by. That means the second paragraph will now have this. Followed by an analysis of how the primary disadvantage, namely confusion with their native tongue, is not valid. So you can clearly see what is going on here. The green marker represents the paraphrase. represents the paraphrase. So if you read it and read this one, you will see that you will notice that it says the same thing, but in a different way. Then the blue marker represents the thesis statement, which is the position that has been taken, right? The position that has been taken in the argument. This essay will argue that the advantages of this outweigh the drawbacks. Then, if you look at the pink marker, it tells you of the work. It tells you the points that will be discussed. The essay will first demonstrate that the earlier someone learns an additional language, the more likely they are to master it, and that it brings added cognitive benefits, followed by an analysis of how the primary disadvantage, namely confusion with their native tongue, is not valid. Now you see how I have structured this introduction. For me to get this introduction, I need to paraphrase, I need to have my thesis statement, and then we would then have our outline sentence. Yes, I am open to questions.